Hello, and welcome back to my channel, Rooted and Rich. I'm Erica Nicole, and today I want to talk to you about falling in love with your finances. Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and it is the month of love. And so I thought it'd be really neat for us to talk about how to fall in love with your finances. I know for some of you guys, you might already be in love with your finances, and for others, you might have a lot of anxiety, you might have a lot of stress around your financial situation, and it is hard for you to fall in love with your finances. And so today I want to talk to you about why you should fall in love with your finances and then how to fall in love with your finances. I feel that if you really do get intimate with your finances, you will see better results and more and have more peace than you will if you continue on the path of staying distant from your finances. So why you should fall in love with your finances? If you do not know your money, if you do not know where your money's going, if you do not know how much is coming in, if you don't direct your money, your money will leave you. You will not have any money. And so money is the requirement for having money is to manage the money. And to manage the money, you have to have a relationship with money. And in the end, all of us have some type of relationship with money, whether it's a good relationship or a bad relationship with money. We all have a relationship with money. A lot of our relationships stem from our childhood, what we watched our parents do, what we watched our grandparents do, what we watch society do, what we learn from social media and others. And so we all have some sort of relationship with money, but I want you to fall in love with your money. Now, when I talk about falling in love with your money, I know the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. And so I'm not talking about falling in love with a dollar. I'm not just talking about like falling in love with a dollar, because that is not what I want. I don't want you doing anything for a little piece of change. I don't want you doing something strange for a little piece of change. I am talking about overall just intimately knowing your finances so that you can make really good decisions. In my videos, I preach automation and paying yourself first and prioritizing yourself. And I still believe that. But in order to get to the place of automation, you have to come to an understanding of your finances. You cannot automate your finances without a solid plan that is working for you. If you automate a bad plan, you will be undoing the automation in order to like fix problems or pay this person, or this person automatically took money out of here and it disrupted this or disrupted that. And now I owe this person and this person got paid. And, so you have to know your finances and come up with a solid plan. And so that's step number one, is getting to know your money, is to come up with a plan for your money. Because if you don't know what's coming in, what's going out, and what you are doing with it, what you're doing with it, then you'll never have success. The first step is knowing where those things are at. But the second step is to really start to make a plan based off of what you see. A lot of times people will get to the first step and they'll be like, oh, okay, I make this much money. I know these things are going out, but they've never had a behavioral change. They've never stopped overspending. They've never stopped letting all those subscriptions. They know those subscriptions are coming out, but they've never went and canceled the subscriptions that are eating up their money. They know that they shop too much. They know that every time Shein or Fashion Nova have a sale, that they're running and they're putting it on Afterpay, Klarna, and the rest of those. But they never stop to check their motives or to stop doing that. They continue to do that. So one of the things with your money, getting to know your money well, is not just getting to know your money well, but then it is reacting to the situation. I'll tell you, just like a relationship, right? So let's say you are in a relationship and you need to focus on communication. Your partner is saying like, hey, you know what? I feel like we have bad communication. We don't talk. We don't spend enough time together. I feel like I don't know what's going on. We're just like, we're just not communicating well. Well, there's one thing to know that, and there's one thing to change the behavior. And so it's the same thing with your money. It's one thing to know your money and to know where things are going. There's another thing to actually make actions based off of what you know. And so the second step is to make actions based off of what you know. So as you get to know your money, now I'm going to start to take actions to make this relationship even better. So let's say back to the communication example. My partner tells me, I just don't feel like we're on the same page. I just don't feel like we're communicating. Well, maybe one of the actions I take is, hey, let's have a weekly load down where we sit down, we have dinner, it's a fun, a fun day, and we just talk. Whatever comes up, we comes up, but we just talk, and we kind of make sure that we are talking to each other, spend nights. So we have one night a week. Maybe that's a date night, maybe that's a dinner, but we sit down together and we just be and we just talk, and we talk about our day, we talk about the kids, we talk about things that are important to us, and that action there can spur a change in the way you feel you're being communicated to. So the same thing with your money. If you see that you have more money going out than you have money coming in, then you got to stop the bleeding. You got to stop the bleeding. If there's more money leaving than you have coming in, then what do you need to do? What is the next step? Is it to cut off those credit cards and stop the bleeding? Is it to start paying down the debt? Like, hey, okay, I see I have all this high debt. Is it to get a second job? What is it that the next step that you need to do? Working overtime. But you got to have some behavioral change. So you're going to first get to know your money intimately. Then you're going to make a change, because we're falling in love with our money. And you can't fall in love with your money without changing, without growing, without becoming. The next thing you're going to do if you're falling in love with your money is, after you make behavioral changes, you're going to assess. You're going to assess whether that change worked or didn't work. So you're going to spend some time making changes, yes. But let's say, now communication is going great. It's going great. And there's a wrench. You got kids and they're not a wrench. They're great, right? But the game changes, right? You got to connect more to say, like, hey, now that we have these kids and we're all just, our lives are surrounded by them, and our worlds are just so heavily involved in that. Are we still communicating? Is this thing still working? Or do we need to shift the way we're doing things? So I want you, once a month, after you know where your stuff is going, after you make the change, the change, and maybe you have multiple changes to make. So you may stay in that making changes, behavior change for a while. But after you make that, you have to evaluate. I don't want you to evaluate in the sense of like stopping your plan, like, okay, I'm going to pause retirement saving to do this, or I'm going to, the things that you have automated, or I'm going to quit saving, saving in my emergency fund. When I say evaluate, I mean like, hey, are my habits, are the things that I set up automated, are they going to the place they need? Are there new dreams that are coming up? So when I talk about evaluate, I'm not talking about individual dollars or where dollars are going, but is your dreams, do you still have the same dreams? Do you still want to save for the same things? After you get the basics of your emergency fund and your retiring for investment and stuff like that, did you get to explore and travel the way you wanted to? And if not, what can you do to get there? So I want you to start to evaluate your plan. And this is after you set up the basics. This is after you've kind of gotten to know your finances, you've made some behavioral changes, you're evaluating, because then we want our money working for us. So when I think about this relationship and I think about the communication, so communication, we got kids or things change now. And so we reevaluate like what's working, what's not. And then we think about our goals. One thing I'll tell you about having children is it changes the whole game. You were thinking about you and you alone, what you wanted to do. And now you have to think about their health, their education, their activities, their things. And so then you have to have a larger plan. What is your vision for your children? Will they go to private school or public school? Are they a sports person or are they not? What kind of sports would they play? And so you start to make a bigger vision. And with your money, sometimes once you've gotten the basics, once you've got your emergency fund, once you started, your retirement investing, once you've done the basics, once you have your 3 to 6 months emergency fund, once you've done the basics, now it's time to dream a little. Now that you have your emergency fund built, where's your fund for your business that you want to start? Where's your fund for your buying your home? Where is your thing? What is your dream? What new do you see on the horizon for you? This is your time to evaluate your plan. And then lastly, again, it is time to make a behavior change based off of the new things that you see. So let's say you have a fully funded emergency fund. That money, now that you have a fully funded emergency fund, you have 6 months or a year in emergency fund. Now that same money that you were putting towards emergency fund, now that can go to your travel fund. Now that can go to buying my dream home fund or buying my starter home fund, whatever the case may be, or that goes to whatever you want. You start to reimagine what possibilities are out there for you, because now you covered the basics. You're not going to be anxious and worried about money. And so you'll be good there. I want you to fall in love with your money because when you fall in love with something, you care about it. You pay extra attention to it. I don't want us to be caught up in, and hustling and like, just greed and stuff like that. But at some point, we got to get in tune with our money. And so I thought this metaphor for Valentine's Day of falling in love with your money was a good one. And so I just really want you to think about what are some of the ways that I need to shift my thinking? What are some of the actions I need to take? And how can I get to know my money better? What stories am I telling myself? Honestly, the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I think one of the things that you may have to shift, even to shift your behavior, is your mindset. Your mindset is important because if you have a poverty mindset, I can give you $10,000 today, and that $10,000 will be gone a month, 2 months, a year from now. And of course, a year from now, because $10,000 in this economy is not a lot of money, but you have to have the right mindset. You have to shift your mindset from a survival mindset to a growth mindset. And I'm telling you guys, when you shift your mindset, when you start to think in a new light around your money, when you throw off that poverty mindset of just focus on today, you're going to do so much better. So the next thing and the last thing I want you to think about when it comes to falling in love with your money is having a long-term relationship with money. A lot of times when we think about a poverty mindset or a poor mindset, it only thinks about today. It only thinks about how I'm going to pay these bills for this month, for today. And that's when I know somebody is in survival, because everything they're doing is focused on today. But when you have a wealth mindset, you focus on your money not just today, but a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And for a relationship, when we go back to that example of a family and they've had their kids, in order for them to be successful, they have to see themselves married not just today, not just working on the problems they see today, but what are the things that are coming down the pipeline? What is the dream for the family 5 years from now, 10 years from now? When you get married, you become one. What are you at one with your spouse? What are y'all becoming one and working towards? What are your mission as a family? When we think about that, that allows us to get out of the day-to-day minutia, stop arguing over what we're going to have for dinner, and really love each other, because we know this is a marathon, not a sprint. And so I implore you today to really fall in love with your finances, not just money, not be greedy, but fall in love with your finances. Figure out, what's coming in and what's not. Think about the behavioral change that needs to happen in order for you to be successful, not just being aware, but the action you need to take. I implore you to think about the money in long-term steps. After I finish the basics, after I get my roots laid down, what are my dreams? What are the things that I need to do? How can I look at the bigger picture and restructure and evaluate my money? And then what is it that's going to happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What do I want my lifestyle to be? What do I want to drive? Where do I want to live? What city do I want to be in? And how can I start preparing for that future today? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.